Yo, what is up, guys? It's Pedro here. So we got some breaking news. The Washington Commanders have been shopping Brian Robinson to teams around the NFL, according to NFL insider Jordan Schultz. I'll be talking about some possible trade packages, trade compensation, and what this means for the Washington Commanders offense moving forward. If you guys are new, make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, that notification bell as well, so you never miss any of these breaking news videos. If any breaking news happens with the Commanders, I'm your guy, Terry McLaurin extension. Hopefully in the next couple weeks, I'll be posting. You guys will hear from me first. But let's get into it, into this video, sorry. The last week or so, there's been some noise about, all right, maybe Brian Robinson isn't going to be part of the Commanders, once we get to week 1, week 2, once we get past cut day. There was some people like Ben Stanek that said he could see him getting cut. He also mentioned a trade. And, there's been some other reports as well. I think the Junkie said anything. Not that I really, take, not that their word holds a lot of weight, but it's just another, some more noise out there. But Jordan Schultz, he is a very reputable source, has a lot of different sources around the league, is close with, a lot of these players, has good relationships with a lot of these players. And he says they're shopping Brian Robinson. I don't like this because when this stuff comes out, especially with a guy that's not an elite guy, when it comes out with a guy like Trey Hendrickson or Myles Garrett, that's fine. The price isn't going to decrease. But when something like this comes out, it usually kind of means like, all right, they might cut him if they can't find a trade partner. I'm not necessarily saying that's the case because I don't think they should cut him. If Brian Robinson, if they can't find a trade partner or a trade that they like, maybe there's a team offering a 7th round pick, but for them that's not enough. Well, I think he's still valuable as, at minimum, the backup to Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt as the, true runner. Eckler still might get more PT and be more of a, impact player than B-Rob in the offense because they're basically different they're different positions. Running back, you have two different type of running backs. Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler are different worlds apart in terms of, their running back roles. But I guess both of them can pass protect. Brian Robinson, though, that is one of his strengths. He can pass protect and, pick up blitzes if you need him to. And, that's a role you can have him for. He's a guy that he can, carry the ball 15, 20 times in a game if you need to. Austin Eckler, no. At this point in his career, he can't. Even with the Chargers, that really wasn't, ideal for him. He was more of a pass-catching back that, he would get a decent amount of carries, but he's not a guy that, especially at this point in his career, that can get you 15-plus carries a game. So Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's your guy. But, I'm really hoping it doesn't happen, knock on wood. But if he gets injured, then you want a guy that can get you 15, 20 carries. And Brian Robinson is that guy. Maybe they have another replacement that, someone they think that can, fill that void. Maybe they really like Chris Rodriguez. And I've said in the past, at times, I think Chris Rodriguez has played better than B-Rob, but there's not much of a fall off there. So maybe that's what they see. But I would not be a fan of cutting him. If you can get a 5th, 6th round pick, honestly, even a 7th round pick, probably, I don't know. A 5th round pick for sure, I would do that. But I just don't think teams are going to be trading a 5th round pick for a running back that, let's keep it real, like he's not, if he's your starting running back, you're not in a good place. And there's a reason why everyone that was a Commanders fan this offseason was clamoring for them to, draft a running back or sign one in free agency, but mostly, drafting a running back. Because Brian Robinson, let's keep it real, he's not an RB1, in my opinion. And I've said this for a while. 797, he hasn't gotten over 800 rushing yards in 3 years. Obviously, his rookie year, he has an excuse after what happened to him early on. And he missed a lot of games and still was hurt. It was still not the same player when he came back from that injury. The next year, though, 733 yards, 15 games, did actually do a really good job as a pass catcher. 370 yards. So 2023, B-Rob actually had a decent season, 1,100 yards from scrimmage and 9 touchdowns. That was a good year for him. This past year, though, it just, I don't know. I didn't really think he played that well. 799 yards, 8 touchdowns. The yards per carry were a little bit up, but I think that's natural when you have a guy in Jaden Daniels on, as a rushing threat. It opens things up, for the running backs. And then his receiving went way, way, way down. Whereas 159 yards, I mean, yeah, you have Austin Eckler, which definitely makes it, takes away some of that. But, Eckler was, missed some games too, but, actually missed a decent amount of games. But, B-Rob, he's a cool guy and everything. But, if they it's just a really interesting situation because you heard the rumblings last season where he wasn't getting the carries he wanted to, and in that mic'd up, it might have been Zach Ertz. I think it was Zach Ertz mic'd up. He was complaining that he's not getting the carries that he deserves, and he was like, now you see what happens when you give me my carries. So, that is something where maybe they're looking for a trade right now, but because they like Ja'Cory Krosky-Mayer. That's another thing. They're really high on Ja'Cory Krosky-Mayer. But maybe after, hearing this news and then, after they tell him Ja'Cory is RB1, he might be a little bit difficult about it because he's expecting to be RB1 and this rookie comes in and is going to get all his carries. He might not be too happy about that. At the end of the day, he's a professional and he, should not go crazy about it. But I don't know. We will have to wait and see. But trade packages, again, I told you guys, I really don't see anything crazy. I don't see anything more than, definitely not more than a fifth round pick is the absolute peak, the most I could see the Commanders getting. And even then, I would say like a 5-10% chance of that happening. My guess is like a 7th round pick, 6th round pick, maybe a pick swap and a player from the other team. So don't trade him to a division rival. B-Rob, you don't want a motivated B-Rob going up against you every, 2 times a season. So here's the other news from Jordan Schultz. He mentioned that stuff and said Washington likes his RB depth, but Robinson's available for the right price. I like the Commanders' RB depth too. They just don't have that guy. And, we still got to see, though, Ja'Cory, Bill, might be that guy. We just don't know. He's shown a lot so far this offseason. Now we got to see in some games. So for me, I'm out on cutting B-Rob. You guys know I'm not the biggest B-Rob fan. He's not one of my favorite players on this team. I just don't think he's that good of a running back. But cutting him to me makes no sense. And even if you like Ja'Cory, you still got to have someone behind him that can take that, 15 to 20 carry load every single game if Ja'Cory is hurt. Eckler cannot do that. Rodriguez can, but you would like to have different options. And if you cut Rodriguez, I doubt someone picks him up. But B-Rob, obviously, if you cut him, someone's going to pick him up. A former 3rd-round pick. He's been in the league for 3 years, has produced, not an RB1 level, but he has produced. And some teams might like him in a short yardage situation, a Peyton Barber type role. I didn't think he was that good in short yardage situations. That's just me, though. But, had 47 first downs this year for the Commanders. And, I want to compare his stats, actually, to Austin Eckler from last year, and then we'll go ahead and call it a day. But I think, we're going to have to wait and see with this news here. So Eckler, 367 yards rushing, 5 yards a carry. So about half a yard better, per carry than B-Rob. That's not, insane, amount better, but, it's definitely better. And then receiving wise, trying to close this ad, you see his receiving stats too, 366 receiving yards, no touchdowns there, played in 12 games. And, first down wise, rushing didn't have a lot, only had, I saw the 4 here. Whereas the first down, so I had 19. So you see throughout his career, he was never a big, attempts guy, even when he played from 2021 to 2022, where he played, every game, maybe, I don't know if 17 games started in 2021, but he played basically every game. He had 200 attempts. And that is, lower than B-Rob had, here in Washington his rookie year. Last couple years has been about the same. But, Austin Eckler is not that guy that's going to give you a lot of carries at this point in his career. His last year, with the Chargers, 180 carries, and, it's just going to keep going down. Not necessarily from 77 because he just didn't play a full year. But, yeah, that is it for today's video. Just want to go over that news and just talk about different scenarios. I think, they'll probably get like a 7th round pick if they decide to move him. But I just don't necessarily like that this news is already coming out, because that sometimes just means that, all right, if you don't find a trade partner, you're just going to cut him, and that just gives you less leverage. But yeah, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.